our weekly off-season 2025 position preview segment. This week we're moving to the defensive line, and we talked a little bit about the defensive line, how unproven this team is going into 2025. They allowed 129.7. I guess the whole team, to be fair, allowed 129.7 yards a game on the ground last year. But the defensive line is who I kind of think of when I'm thinking of run defense. And that was the most a Kirby Smart team has given up since 2018 when they gave up 134 yards a game. It's crazy because I thought that win at Texas was just so out of nowhere last year that all of a sudden it's like, this looks like the best defense in college football, and just absolutely just go on the road and just take care of business. In those two Texas games, Georgia allowed 60 yards rushing. Like, for whatever reason, Texas could not run the ball in Georgia. In the 5 games in between that, everyone was running on Georgia. Like, it didn't make any sense. They had 5 straight 100-yard games there before the SEC championship. Georgia Tech went for 260. UMass went for 226.
That UMass game, man. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a weird one. And I kind of, it is UMass, so I let it slide. Like, you don't get up for UMass like you do other games. It's like Georgia Tech. This was like Friday night, prime time. Like, there was a big time atmosphere, and they're just running the ball on Georgia. It's like, okay, this is something. But yeah, so this defensive line, I think the defense gets kind of a pass a little bit last year. Like, so much of the hate on this team a year ago was on the offense. Of course, everyone hated Carson Beck. It was not just him on the offense for sure. But the defense just really wasn't elite like they usually are, and they had their performances here and there, the 2 Texas games and the Clemson game, but there weren't a lot of great defensive performances a year ago. You lose Nazir Stackhouse, you lose Warren Brinson, Mykel Williams, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. I think Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins is the one I'm like the most bummed about. Like, obviously, Mykel Williams, like, he's a 3-year guy. He's going to the NFL. He's obviously the best one on the defensive line that left. But I feel like Ingram-Dawkins, that has injuries here and there, I feel like he still had, like, maybe not a superstar year, but I feel like he had like a great year in him that, like, if he came back in 2025, this defensive line could have been like pretty sick.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like he definitely had the most upside of anybody on that group last year. I think he's definitely going to be the best pro out of that bunch, just because, like, what he can do as a interior pass rusher is kind of insane. How quick his feet are. Just, I mean, the natural burst that he has. It's crazy. I mean, it's really something that there are a lot of linemen are just too slow for that. And, like, I think we're starting to see, like you said, like, what he could really be. Early in the season, he had a bunch of really good games. Like, I think his Auburn game was one that I remember him, like, making a bunch of plays in. So yeah, I would have liked to see him come back for another year for sure. Just because, like, he's a really talented player, a really cool player. I love when there's interior pass rushers who have that kind of juice. And, like, I think he's going to go on to be a much better pro than he was at Georgia. Because yeah, I agree. I mean, he was a 5-star for a reason. He's got unreal athletic qualities that I don't really know if there's no guy on this year's defensive front with that kind of athletic profile for sure.
So am I to understand you that you think Ingram-Dawkins will be better than Mykel Williams in the NFL?
Oh, no. I think he will be better than in the NFL. Okay. He will be a better NFL player than he was as a college player.
Okay. I just wanted
but I also think about Mykel Williams. Like,
yeah, I could definitely see that.
I think some people are writing off Mykel Williams because he doesn't have, a lot of sack production, but like nobody who went to Georgia has any sack production because they rotate their edges so much. So if Mykel Williams becomes a 15 sack a year guy in the NFL, I will not be surprised one bit.
Yeah, and you even see Chaz Chambliss, like not big sack numbers, and then you see some of these videos of him where he just blows up like a pulling guard or something. You're like, okay, that's what he's supposed to be doing. He's doing his job. He's a little smarter than me, who's just looking at sack numbers.
Well, and you'll see a video of him like lifting up a car, and you're just like, oh my god, like this was like their 4th pass rusher last year. Like,
yeah, they and I mean Trayvon Walker was a guy who went number 1 overall without big sack numbers. The NFL knows what they're looking at when it comes to those guys' tape.
He went number 1.
Yeah, what even like 3rd team All SEC? I don't think it was. First overall pick of the draft.
Great NFL player too. Yeah, shout out to Trayvon.
For sure. They also lost Jamal Jarrett, transferred to USC. Although you know the last defensive line that transferred to USC, you know, we didn't miss him that much.
No, yeah, that one, Jamal Jarrett just never really got his Georgia career off the ground.
Yeah,
just kind of think it's funny that I don't mean to belittle Jamal Jarrett. I'm sure he's probably a nice guy. Well, actually, I don't know. I've heard some things that he's actually not. But USC is was a funny place for him to end up for sure.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. So when I look at 2025 and what the depth chart's going to look like, I feel like we're going to rely a lot on the 2024 class. So before we get to the 2024 class, I feel like Christian Miller and Xavier McLeod are really the only proven guys on this whole group. And Xavier McLeod, I feel like I was really impressed with him near the end of the season. I feel like he had a couple games where he really played well. But Christian Miller, like we were kind of saying before, like if there's kind of a couple candidates that like if they became an All-American this year, it wouldn't shock you. I feel like Christian Miller is one of those. But I mean, it's reaching. It's a guy who's having a way better year than anything he's done to this point. But he's the one I guess the most excited about. Not that I'm expecting him to be an All-American.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I expect him to be a All-American either, but I do expect him to be the saving grace of the interior defensive line. I mean, he's honestly kind of I was just talking about how there's nobody on the team has the same athletic profile as Ingram Dawkins does, and I don't think anyone does, but I do think he might come the closest in terms of like the combination of speed and power that he has. I think it's going to be really cool to get to see him kind of lead this group this year. He's going to be unleashed at, I think, a level he hasn't really been at. Excuse me. He's been a rotational guy for most of his career, but he's a really talented pass rusher, man. And big kid, can stuff the run too. Like, I assume they'll kind of move him between nose and 3-tech a little bit, like I know they like to do sometimes. But yeah, I agree. If anyone in all the defensive line is going to have an All-American caliber year, it's going to be him. And even if he doesn't, I think he's going to be a very good player this year, regardless of what it looks like if he stays healthy.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Ingram Dawkins because I feel like the exact same about Christian Miller and Ingram Dawkins. That Christian Miller, through 3 years, I feel like he's a good player, but he hasn't really been unleashed. Like he's kind of had some injuries. He's kind of just been a rotational guy. Getting his year starting, I think he could have a big year. And I was hoping Ingram Dawkins could do the same. But the 2024 guys I'm talking about, we have Jordan Hall, of course, in 2023 that, everyone loves, everyone's hyping up. Like this guy should be a difference maker, but he just can't stay healthy through his first 2 years on campus. So we still haven't seen it, but I feel like everyone's confident that he does have it. Do you have anything about Jordan Hall?
Yeah, I mean, he's just battled so many injuries. So I agree. I think we just don't really kind of know yet. But that's a guy that people from around the team have spoken highly of. So I think that's just going to be one of those guys where you just kind of have to wait and see because he hasn't really, we haven't seen him a lot yet, but I know, I mean, he's stuck around for a while at this point, and they do seem to like him. He could,
for sure.
He might be the biggest, like him and like, on the interior, he probably is the biggest like X factor as far as like, this is a mystery player. Like
if we get to see this guy
going to be,
Yeah. It could even be a boat. But we've seen like if we get to see Jordan Hall like reach what his potential was coming out like a top 5, top 10 player coming out of high school, like it's definitely an X factor for this defensive line. But in terms of the 2024 guys, I think either Joseph Jonah-Ajonye, Jordan Thomas, or Nasir Johnson, I think one, if not multiple of those guys have to be impact players this year. Like Joseph Jonah-Ajonye, pretty much just as big time as Jordan Hall. Like, dude, 5-star coming out. Like, Georgia needs him to be an impact player, I think, in 2024. But I'm also, Jordan Thomas is one of the few that's coming back that's actually gotten on the field. I think he played like 3 games last year.
Yeah, he did.
And he was a big time recruiter as well. So, which of those guys are you most excited about?
Probably Joseph Jonah-Ajonye, honestly, just because like you said, I mean that's the guy that I've been hearing about for the longest. That's the guy who was a 5-star, I think top 5-10 player at his position. But that's another one who has been dealing with a bunch of injuries pretty much since he arrived in Athens, and I think the feeling about him is also like he might not be ready just yet because of how much time that he's had to miss. But like they also know that he has the gifts, and there's a couple guys on the defensive line that are like that. But I think that's definitely the guy that I'm the most intrigued by personally.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just the upside just seems through the roof. And like we're talking about, like this is the most unproven Georgia team like we can think of, like, and other fan bases are going to say, oh, boo-hoo, because you have Jordan Hall, a former 5-star who you haven't seen really play yet. Joseph Jonah-Ajonye, former 5-star, hasn't really played yet. And then who some people call the next Jalen Carter, Warren Brinson at least called the next Jalen Carter, Elijah Griffin, true freshman in this class, former 5-star that's yet to play. Man. So it's like, might be unproven, but we're unproven a bunch of 4 or 5-star players.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's any other team would kill to be this, would kill to have unproven guys with these pedigrees. Elijah Griffin, man, oh my goodness, that kid is already like a folk hero. Like I've already heard like
right? What have you heard?
I've already seen like articles with like players telling like anecdotes about him and stuff, and he's like 18. Like Warren Brinson told that story. I think it was Warren Brinson actually. I went to the pro day a couple weeks ago, and they asked somebody. It was either him or Nazir Stackhouse about Elijah Griffin, and his eyes just kind of went like that. Like you can tell, like these are football players who have been around other Georgia football players who have been around other freaks of nature for a while now, at least a few past few years. Some of them since high school, probably some of those IMG kids, and they're still talking about Elijah Griffin like this, like he's like the 1% of the 1% of athletes. So like that might be the most excited. I think I'm probably more excited about him than any other newcomer on this whole team. I don't know how much he'll actually play as a freshman because defensive line is a tough position to just come in and play as a freshman, obviously. But like every year, these Kirby Smart teams have a couple, and I know you said we'll talk about this next week, so I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. But every year, these Kirby Smart teams have a couple of freshmen that stand out, and I think he might be my most likely candidate.
Yeah, and the thing about most of those teams is they're usually not relying on the freshmen. It's just it's going to be just on paper a really good team, and then all of a sudden a freshman steps in and turns it into a great team or something. Brock Bowers, who without Brock Bowers, 2021 is probably a pretty damn good team. With Brock Bowers, they're a championship team. Malachi Starks or somebody.
Darnell Washington would have had so many touchdowns.
Yeah, so it's
should have got my boy more red zone touches, man.
he definitely. What do you end up like 2 or 3 career touchdowns?
He had a couple. Yeah, he had a couple.
Yeah. No, that's true. But I'm afraid we might be relying a little more on freshmen this year than most years.
I think so.
But yeah, I think the D-line, like we've said, there's some question marks, but Georgia's got a lot better question marks than a lot of other teams and the country are dealing with.